You know, Alex, I spent 3 hours yesterday evening scrubbing a piece of 6061 like I was trying to find buried treasure under the surface. My shoulders are still barking at me.
Let me guess. You tried to weld it as is first. It looked like a bird spent the afternoon peppering your metal. And then you realized you forgot the cardinal rule.
Guilty as charged. I got impatient. I thought, it looks shiny enough, which is the biggest lie aluminum ever tells you. It's a deceptive metal. It wears this invisible armor, that oxide layer. And if you don't treat that stuff with the respect it deserves, it'll turn your Saturday afternoon into a Greek tragedy real quick.
Welcome back to the Tiger Den, everyone. Today we are wading into the silvery, frustrating, yet incredibly rewarding world of TIG welding aluminum. It's the Everest for a lot of makers. Tiger, why is it that steel is like a loyal dog, but aluminum feels like a cat that's actively plotting your demise?
That is the most accurate description I've ever heard. See, steel is predictable. It gets red, it gets soft, it melts. Aluminum doesn't give you the courtesy of a color change. It stays silver, stays silver, stays silver. And then suddenly the floor falls out and you've got a hole the size of a nickel where your joint used to be. It's all about that thermal conductivity. It's like trying to fill a bucket that has a giant hole in the bottom, so you're pouring in the heat, but the metal is just whisking it away to the other side of the shop.
And we have to talk about that invisible armor you mentioned. Most people see silver and think clean, but the science says otherwise, right?
Exactly, that oxide layer is the ultimate gatekeeper. It's wild. The aluminum itself melts at about 1200 degrees Fahrenheit, but that skin of oxide on top, it doesn't even flinch until you hit 3700 degrees.
Wait, so the skin is 3 times tougher than the meat?
Every bit of it. If you don't scrub it off, you're basically trying to melt ice inside a ceramic bowl without breaking the bowl. You'll have a puddle of molten aluminum trapped under a solid skin. You go to poke it with your filler rod, and it just sags and craters. It's why you need a dedicated stainless steel brush. I have one with aluminum only sharpied on the handle in giant letters, because if even a microscopic speck of carbon steel from a previous job gets in there, the weld will look like it has the measles.
So you scrub it, you're sweating, you're ready. But then there's the machine side. We can't just use the same settings we used for the garden gate we fixed last week, can we?
Not unless you want a very expensive paperweight. For aluminum, it's all about the AC, alternating current.
I remember the first time I saw someone adjust AC balance, and I thought they were tuning a radio. Explain what that's actually doing to the metal.
It's a tug of war, really. Half the time, the electricity is flowing from the tungsten to the work. That's the electrode negative part. And that's what does the heavy lifting of melting the base metal. But then the current flips. It flows from the work back up to the tungsten. That's electrode positive. That's where the magic happens. It literally sandblasts that oxide layer off from the inside out. We call it cleaning action. If you look at a good aluminum weld, you'll see a little frosty white border around the bead. That's the area where the electricity just scrubbed the neighborhood clean.
So, if I see those little black specks that look like someone shook a pepper grinder over my weld, that's the machine telling me I need more cleaning?
Spot on. If you're getting those black peppers, you need to dial back the balance to give it more time on the cleaning side of the cycle. But be careful. If you go too far, you'll start melting your tungsten into a big old ball, and you'll lose that precision arc. It's a balancing act, hence the name.
Speaking of the tungsten, I've seen two schools of thought. Some guys say you need to grind it to a point like a pencil. Others say it needs to be a perfect ball on the end. Where's the den sitting on this one?
Well, the old school transformers used to require a bald tip, but with modern inverter machines, I like a slight truncation. Grind it to a point, then just barely knock the tip off so it's flat. As you weld on AC, it'll naturally form a tiny dome. If you have a giant wobbling ball of molten tungsten on the end of your torch, your arc is going to wander around like a tourist without a map. You want that arc focused.
Okay, let's talk about the actual act. You're at the bench, you've got your hood down, you hit the pedal. Aluminum just behaves differently under the torch, doesn't it? It's not like steel where you can see the puddle slowly forming.
It's all in the shiny dot. You have to wait. If you add filler, the second you see a glimmer, you're asking for trouble. You wait for that surface to break, and suddenly it looks like a tiny pool of liquid mercury. That's your green light. But here's the kicker. Aluminum is a heat hog. You need a ton of amperage to get that puddle started, maybe 150 amps for an 1/8 inch plate. But once that plate gets up to temp, it's like a runaway train. If you stay at 150 amps, the whole thing will just fall through onto your boots.
So you're saying your foot is doing a lot of work on that pedal.
It's like playing the drums. You floor it to get the puddle moving, and then as you move down the joint, you're slowly backing off, feathering the throttle. If you don't, the heat builds up so fast that the end of your weld will be 3 times wider than the start. I actually use copper heat sinks sometimes, big blocks of copper clamped behind the joint, just to suck some of that extra thermal energy away so I don't lose control.
I've heard you talk about pumping the rod too. It's not a slow, steady feed like stainless, right?
No, it's more of a rhythmic dab and move. You want to see those stack of dimes everyone takes photos of for Instagram. To get that, you have to be decisive. Shove the rod in, pull it back, move the torch. If you dawdle, the filler rod will actually melt before it even touches the puddle because the air around the arc is so hot. Then you end up with a big ball of filler stuck to the side of your joint, and you're back to grinding.
I've seen your grinding bucket of shame, Tiger. It's pretty full.
It's a heavy bucket, Alex, but that's how you learn the rhythm. Let's talk about gas. I've seen people try to use their MIG gas, that argon CO2 mix, on aluminum TIG. That's a one-way ticket to a disaster.
Oh, I made that mistake once in my early days. The arc looked like a lightning storm, and the metal turned black immediately.
It's 100% pure argon, or nothing. Or if you're doing something really thick, like a cylinder head or a heavy boat hull, you might mix in some helium. Helium is like adding a turbocharger to your torch. It makes the arc much hotter. But for 90% of us, straight argon is the ticket. And don't get greedy with the flow. If you crank it up to 30 or 40 CFH thinking more is better, you'll create turbulence. That turbulence pulls in outside air, and suddenly you've got porosity, tiny little bubbles in your weld that look like Swiss cheese.
I've seen those clear glass cups, the gas savers. Are those just for the cool factor, or do they actually help?
They're worth every penny. Aluminum is incredibly sensitive to contamination. Those gas saver kits use a mesh screen called a gas lens that straightens the flow out. Instead of the gas coming out like a chaotic garden hose, it comes out in a smooth, column-like laminar flow. It gives you much better coverage, which means you can stick your tungsten out a bit further to see what you're doing in tight corners.
Let's address the big what if. What if you're doing everything right? The gas is pure, the metal is scrubbed, and you still get those tiny bubbles. Porosity is the bane of the aluminum welder's existence.
Moisture, that's the silent killer. Aluminum is porous on a microscopic level. If you live in a humid place, or if you brought your metal in from a cold garage into a warm shop, it'll develop a thin film of condensation you can't even see. I always keep a propane torch handy. I'll just run a flame over the joint for a few seconds before I start. You'll actually see the moisture sweat out and evaporate. If you don't do that, that water turns into hydrogen under the arc, and hydrogen is what causes those bubbles.
It sounds like aluminum TIG is 80% prep and 20% actually welding.
Honestly, it might be 90-10. I've spent 40 minutes cleaning and jigging apart for a 5-second weld. But if you take those shortcuts, the metal will find a way to humiliate you, especially when it comes to feedability. If you're doing aluminum MIG, it's even worse because the wire is so soft it tangles up like a bird's nest in the drive rolls. But in TIG, your feedability is all in how you handle your filler rod. If you get a bead of sweat on your glove and it touches the rod, contamination. If you drop the rod on the floor, you better wipe it down with acetone because it just picked up floor dust.
You're making it sound like we're performing surgery.
In a way, we are. But the satisfaction when you get it right, Alex, there's nothing like it. When you finish a bead on aluminum and it has that high voltage silver shine and the ripples are perfectly spaced, you feel like a wizard.
So, for the person sitting in their garage right now, staring at a stack of aluminum and feeling intimidated, what's the one thing they should focus on first?
Stop trying to fix a bad puddle. If it's not looking right, stop immediately. Don't try to power through it. If you see junk floating in the pool or the arc is jumping around, let it cool, grab your brush, and clean it again. You can't outweld dirt. And honestly, practice on thin stuff. Everyone thinks thick plate is easier, but thin sheet forces you to learn heat control. It forces you to respect the pedal. Once you can weld 2 soda cans together, you can weld anything.
Soda cans? That sounds like a Tiger disaster story waiting to happen.
Oh, I've got a trash can full of melted aluminum puddles that used to be soda cans. I think I single-handedly kept the local recycling center in business for a year while I was learning. But that's the beauty of it. You're not just joining metal, you're learning to speak its language. Aluminum is just a little louder and more opinionated than steel.
Well, I think I'm ready to go scrub some metal until it's bright enough to see my reflection in it.
That's the spirit. Just remember, stainless brush for the oxide, pure argon for the shield, and your foot for the sole.
Foot for the soul. I like that. Thanks for joining us in the Tiger Den. Go make something, go break something, but most importantly, clean your metal.
See you in the shop.